Welcome back, everyone, to the After the Scales podcast, episode 23, presented by DJD Graphics. I'm Jacob Dove from Phenom Motorsports, along with Shaun Blight of Canadian Racing Tours. We have a pretty cool podcast today. I'm going to call it The Martin Show because we got a co-host here with Liam Martin. He drives a sprint car from Canada. If you guys are familiar with the Southern Ontario Sprint Car Series, you've probably seen him run in the Nitro 54, number 9. We have our guest today will be Cam Martin from Ankeny, Iowa, in the number 4 sprint car. We're gearing up for the 360 Nationals at Knoxville. We're going to give everyone a rundown here, kind of talk about what's coming up on the schedule. I'll throw it over to Shaun since he was responsible for getting Liam on today.
Yeah, and I just want to rock my Liam Martin merch here, right there.
Oh, yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah. So Liam runs mostly every Friday at Oshawigan Speedway here in Canada and tours with the Southern Ontario Sprints. And then you dabble a little bit with the Great Lakes Sprint Car Series down there in Michigan and Ohio, Volusia in February. So you do a little bit of racing outside of Canada, and you're gearing up for the Knoxville 360 Nationals this week. Just tell us what goes into that. I mean, you guys, we don't really have any half-mile dirt tracks here in Canada, so this is the biggest track that you guys will run all year. So just talk about the travel, the preparation, what all goes into that.
There's a ton, really. Where do I even start? The biggest thing for us right now is we had a wreck 2 weeks ago, and we're kind of still healing from that. Spare cars just going together tonight, like all the final pieces, so going to get that loaded and get it into the trailer. And for preparation wise, there's lots of different setup stuff we do to a car, so tackle all that in the upcoming weeks. We had a lucky weekend off though at Oshawigan this past weekend, so it's been good to have the time and get ready for the Knoxville Nationals again.
And you're going to be working with Sam Hafertepe Jr. Obviously, we know that he's a pretty fast guy out on the big tracks. Even though he's from Texas, he has a lot of Canadian support. Talk about the relationship with him.
No, Sam's an awesome guy. I really like working with him. A lot of guys that do work with him maybe have a harder time, but I seem to understand how his lingo goes, and we really get along. I've helped him 2 years in a row now at the Charlotte Nationals, or the dirt track at Charlotte, and it's been good. I enjoy helping out the team and seeing their team dynamic, and they have a really good team dynamic, really, just on how they go about a night, have obviously the World Outlaw type setup of crew guys, per se, like a tire guy, you got a crew chief, and then Sam himself. So their dynamic works awesome, and I take it and try and apply it to our team, which is really helpful and beneficial for our racing as well.
And Liam, just give everyone kind of a general overview how you got started in racing, how you got to where you're at now, specifically in the 360 sprint cars, and where you'd like to go from here.
Well, it all began when I was about 7 to 8 years old, when I first started racing cars, or go-karts per se. Dad had racing in his blood. He never got to do this type of racing, but he was into a lot of motorsport type deals with motorcycles and a bit of demolition derby and stuff like that. So that got us into it. And my dad always wanted to race sprint cars, but he's an older gentleman, and he got me into it anyway. So race go-karts from the age of 8 on asphalt to age of 13. And then we bought our first crate sprint car from a local team, Team Turner Racing. From there, we took it to age of 16 in the crate cars, got a couple of years under our belt, and then very fortunate to be picked up by the Nitro 54 crew. They were looking for another 360 sprint car driver in the 9 car, which was owned and driven by Steve Lyons, owner of Creative Edge Signs and Graphics. So we were very fortunate to get that opportunity, and Dan and Steve, the team owner and the car owner, they're super humble, awesome guys, and they've been able to help me and my family and team grow very exponentially.
And we're seeing a lot of entries into Knoxville, not only for the big 410 Nationals. I think it's up to like 103 cars now. Shaun showed me the entry list for just the 360s alone. Is it kind of intimidating knowing this many drivers are showing up for one race? Because I feel like if you make the show, that's just an accomplishment in itself, let alone, battling for a win. So kind of talk about the thoughts with the whole competition, because we see a lot of 410 guys running the 360s even.
No, it's It's a big show. It's a big weekend. A half-mile dirt track is not very common for us to run other than Volusia. So when we do get to run the half-mile race, it's pretty neat. But competition-wise, it's stiff. If we do make the show, and if we're able to make the show for Saturday night, I think that's a win on our own, just for the racing we've been able to accomplish up here in Canada and the dabbling we've gotten to do in the States, and the competition level is just insane. So, no, it'd be good. That'd be my main goal at Knoxville, is if we could make the show, but it's gonna be tough.
For those of us like Jacob and I that are just fans of the sport, I'm always curious, like, what's it like being pushed off to go out onto Knoxville for the first time? Like, there's not too many tracks that are as special as that place.
No, not at all. I think the first time I went out there, I was astonished on how huge the place is. It's just the way it's set up. The dirt's always nice. The clay is really good there. Every time you hit the track, you kind of can anticipate it really well. And then just the sheer size of the place is neat. So when you get out there and you take the first corner, you throw it in like an idiot and it doesn't work. And then the next time you go around, hopefully you drive it in straighter. So it's a neat place.
A few moments here, we'll have Cam Martin on. Obviously, I've watched Cam run down here in Florida along with you and some of the other guys that like to travel from the Midwest and Canada and the Northeast. Talk about, moving forward with your sprint car career and how you want to advance to hopefully maybe run the 410s full time maybe one day, and all the resources given that opportunity.
The main goal would be 410s eventually. Our team right now, I don't know if they want to do it right now or currently. I don't know what we kind of have in the making, but future accomplishments would definitely. I would love to run a 410 sprint car. It's the top tier sprint car racing. I feel like we've gotten a lot of seat time in a 360, but I feel like we'd need some more.
After the Scales is proudly presented by DJD Graphics. From commercial and personal vehicles to racing bikes and cars of all makes, models, and disciplines, DJD Graphics can fully customize your vehicle to suit your needs. For more information, contact Darren and visit his website at www.djdgraphics.com. Tell him Shaun and Jacob sent you to receive special rates.
So now we have Cam Martin joining us on today's podcast. I've been following Cam for quite some time now, along with his brother Chris Martin. You guys can probably spot them pretty easily. They have pretty similar cars with the 44 and the 4, but Cam races Knoxville and all around the Midwest. We're excited to have him on along with Liam Martin. Not related though, but like I said, This is the Martin podcast. So yeah, Cam, we're excited to talk with you. Talk about some excitement with the 360 Nationals coming up.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys. This is a pretty cool deal, but we've been working all year towards 360 Nationals, and we've been struggling a little bit at Knoxville this year, but I think we've gotten to that point to where we've got a pretty good shot at making the A-Main on Saturday.
All right, Cam, just talk about how you got into racing specifically, obviously with your brother being an influence as well. What's the kind of the family background of racing and how you guys got into it?
Yeah, so I've grown up around racing, dirt track racing specifically my entire life. I started when I was about 10, 11 years old. Started out in outlaw karts, and then as soon as I turned 15, I got into a 305 sprint car. From there, I ran 2 years of those. When I turned 16, I got into a 360, and that's pretty much when I started running full time. So we had a guy named Skylar Prohaska from Minnesota. He's pretty well known from up there racing sprint cars. He came on, and he's been helping me the last 3 years. Just this spring, I got to dip my toes into the 410 ranks, so I've been running some 410 shows here and there. But yeah, my brother Chris, who's 26 now, he's been racing go-karts since he was 4 years old, and he's been racing ever since, doing the 360 and 410 sprint cars. But really it all started with my dad when he was a teenager. He had a really good friend named Brett Geldner from Minnesota, where my dad was from, and he just started out helping him at the Jackson Motorplex, Arlington Raceway in Minnesota. So that's how he kind of fell in love with sprint car racing himself. My dad never got to race, but as he grew older, had my brother and I, he was able to give us the opportunity to race. So that's a little bit about my background.
And with Liam here, I want to kind of compare you guys' both similar upbringing as far as like moving through the ranks. So Liam, kind of explain, how you got your start into dirt racing.
Well, it's honestly a little bit different than Cam's. I actually started in asphalt go-karts, which was a little different, but we didn't have the sights set on dirt car racing originally. Me and my dad just did it for fun, honestly. So I started when I was about 8 years old, 7 or 8, around there. Ran go-karts up until the age of 13, and then one of our local teams that we still race with today, they sold us a crate sprint car to me and my dad. So dad got me into it. We raced our family car for 3 years in the crate sprint division at Oswego Speedway. Did a bit of traveling in the Ontario, and from there, Nitro 54 Racing had a 2-car team at the time, and one of the drivers was retiring, which he kind of was just getting he was just getting done with racing. Was having a blast at it, but he just didn't have the help, and he was an older gentleman, so he got out of it. And his name's Steve Lyons. He runs Creative Edge Signs and Graphics, does all of our graphics and stuff like that. So he's our current car owner. Him and Dan Anico picked myself up on the team, and I've been racing with them ever since. And they've given me such an opportunity because they have awesome race cars, good engines, and we can't complain to race with them.
Obviously, Knoxville is no slouch to just the weekly racing. We've seen a lot of guys who ran national series and then come back and then run Knoxville, like Aaron Reitzel, Brian Brown. You even mentioned about Jamie Ball, who's been having a pretty good year overall. Going into Knoxville and seeing the entry list and seeing so many drivers who run 410s that are putting a 360 motor in it, is it intimidating for you, Cam? Because obviously you're used to racing against your normal competition, and now you got to stack yourself up against all these other guys, and now you got hundreds of cars in the pits. Do you have any butterflies in your stomach about going into the nationals coming up and trying to make the show?
Oh yeah, of course. And like all year, you work so hard to race the guys that show up on the weekly, and then all of a sudden you're looking at the lineups, and you've got guys like Zeb Wise this last weekend showed up to run 360s. And I don't know, you try to not think about it very much. You just try to think as like they're another competitor out there, but you just gotta race them like you would anyone else.
Do you do anything different to prepare for this week, knowing what a big week it is for yourself in the 360s?
Yeah, for sure. I'm really trying to relax this week and keep myself safe. I'm not, I'm still a teenager, so I'm known for doing normal, dumb teenager stuff. So I'm just trying to keep myself healthy and kind of keep things on the down low. Just not get too tired out for this weekend.
Yeah, you two both could probably take some advice for getting prepared for the week. But I wanted to mention with Cam that I know we have a question regarded to this in our rapid fire segment, but I wanted to kind of get a head start on it and see. I've gotten to talk with your brother many times when you guys come down to Florida, and your brother's a great guy too, just like you. And I feel like you guys are kind of quiet in the pits, but then when you guys get out there on the track, it's like, who's that guy behind the wheel? You guys are like on a different, mentality. But talk about your like sibling rivalry, because I feel like every, siblings that are in racing, you guys usually, head to head, back and forth, trying to outcompete each other.
Yeah, for sure. And when I got up into the 360 ranks and started racing with my brother, my dad actually sat us down and was like, guys, you can race kind of however you want against anyone else, but if you guys end up wrecking each other, it's going to be a very long drive home that night. So, like I was talking about, like the other guys, I try not to think about it. I had to race my brother just this last Thursday and Friday in both the 360 and 410 ranks at the Jackson Motorplex. And frankly enough, we were pretty close to each other both nights, for the whole night. But we like to, pick at each other during the week if one or the other beats each other. And a couple weeks ago, Chris and I actually had a slider battle for the podium at a local race here in Iowa, and unfortunately, he came out on top on that. But on Thursday, I was able to beat him. So it's always a little bit back and forth, but you definitely don't want to wreck one another, or else it's going to be a long week in the shop.
Yeah, that makes Thanksgiving's pretty rough, doesn't it?
Yes, very.
Actually, the last time I seen you, Cam, we raced that Volusia together in the winter, and you were going back to school. Maybe elaborate on that. Like, what do you got going on in life?
So, obviously, I've been living here at my parents' house this summer, but last year I went to the Iowa State University as a freshman in college. I've been studying ag there, and here in just a few weeks, I plan on moving back up there for my sophomore year, still continuing in ag. Luckily enough, Iowa State is only about a half-hour drive from here, from the shop, so I still get to, come home on the weekends once in a while and work in the shop and still race. But just trying to continue my education in college and see if that can take me somewhere.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Right on.
So what's the long-term goal then for yourself with the racing and school at the same time? And obviously, that's a lot to juggle, but what are you hoping to do with your education then?
Yeah, it was a lot to juggle, especially, getting through my freshman year. And like Liam said, going down to Florida this spring for a couple weekends, it took a lot of time management. But, I'd like to keep racing as much as I can. So, I don't know. Obviously, I want to graduate, get a degree. If I have the opportunity to keep racing and go full-time racing, that would be awesome. But I'm trying to follow in my dad's footsteps. He's owned a few businesses in the ag industry, so just trying to follow in his footsteps and hopefully become a business owner and take over his farming here in a couple of years.
And kind of talk about, we're on the topic of outside of racing, moving from college, and now you're saying about the family business side. What would you say that obviously everyone that we've talked to, we know that racing is really expensive. It takes a lot of resources, and we talked to every driver about this. I wanted you to talk about what goes into your race season, all the sponsors that help you get up and down to every racetrack, and then after you talk about it, Cam, I wanted to hear from Liam as well.
Yeah, of course. And especially the level that we're racing at. Like this spring, I went to Florida for my first time, and my brother's been going for a couple of years now. And we're one big team, but also two separate teams. So there's definitely a lot of costs, and we have some awesome supporters. Higher View Enterprises, they're a new big sponsor for us. C&D Elevator Construction, they're another big sponsor that helps us get up and down the road. Morley Race Engines, Vortex Wings, Maxim Race Chassis. There's a whole list of guys that help us out and help give us quality race cars so we can go out, and have fun, but still be able to compete with the top guys.
We're very fortunate to be on Nitro 54 racing. The cost of racing is huge, like Cam said, and without these guys, we definitely wouldn't be able to do it. We've also got a lot of big continuous sponsors that have been with us on the race car. They help us. They help me every bit of the way. Just them being on board and everything like that.
Yeah, I know. I'm sure we're all anxious here to get to Knoxville and watch you guys, get out there and compete. So any concluding thoughts from you, Shaun?
I've never been to Knoxville. It's a huge bucket list track for me. Wishing you guys both the best of luck. I know it's a daunting task. I'm looking at the list of names right now, and wishing I could go and be a part of it. So really appreciate both you guys coming on. Wishing you both the best of luck. And before we let Cam go, I think Liam's going to stick around and join us for Garrett's segment coming up in a bit. But we every episode we do 10 rapid fire questions. It's called our Rapid Fire by DJD Gear. And Jacob, I think you've got the questions. So whenever you guys are ready, fire away.
Yeah. So Cam, the first question for you is outside of Knoxville, which is your favorite track to race at?
My favorite racetrack has to be Jackson Motorplex. I just had a second place finish and a hard charger there on Thursday and Friday.
Who's the faster brother, you or Chris?
Me for sure. I beat him Thursday and Friday, so most recently I've beat him.
Good answer. What's your favorite thing to do in Ankeny, Iowa?
Hang out with my friends. I've grown up here my entire life, so just hang out with my hometown high school friends.
And more personal, what is your favorite song at the moment that you're listening to?
My favorite song probably has to be a bar song, Tipsy. It's on repeat right now.
And you kind of talked about it earlier with your college, but obviously it's a big rivalry around there. So the question was Iowa Hawkeyes or Iowa State Cyclones?
Iowa State Cyclones all the way. Roll Clones.
And it doesn't have to be racing related, but what is your biggest fear?
Probably failure.
And give us 2 reasons why you think your truck is better than everyone else's.
Well, I don't, but it's mine. So, and it's a Ford. So Ford above Chevy and Ram for sure.
Yeah, as a big Chevy guy, I figured you were going to say that. So, if you did race sprint cars, what race car would you be behind the wheel of?
Probably either late models or dirt bikes or side-by-sides.
Obviously, you run Knoxville a lot. There's 2 different racing lines usually. But what would you rather run, the bottom or the top side?
Top all the way. Tub. Way more fun.
And then last but not least, you're running second to your brother Chris at Knoxville. Do you throw a Hail Mary slider for the win, even if you have the potential of wrecking?
100%. 100%. Knoxville. I'd do anything to win at Knoxville.
Well, there were some great answers from Cam there, some funny ones. I know that Cam was probably going to answer in a pretty positive manner, but we really appreciate him coming on. I know these guys are obviously busy coming up with one of the biggest races of the year, especially for 360 sprint cars. So, Cam, we really appreciate you, and we wish you the best of luck this week.
Yeah, thank you guys. Thanks for having me on.